Hey, good afternoon. Lots of questions about suspension and steering. Sometimes you don't have the ability to call somebody or get an explanation of what each part is on your axle or your front suspension or steering. So we happen to have this front end out of a early Bronco that we're getting ready to install. And I thought I'd just take an opportunity to give you some information that would help you understand what each part is and kind of how it works, so that if you got a, if it's a front wheel drive without the axle gears, you can kind of get a feel for what goes there and understand how it works. So first of all, this is the front axle on a Bronco, so that means it's a four-wheel drive, and you can see that the axle's straight on this one. And if it were to mount up in the Bronco, these are the radius arms, and there's two big bushings here that hold it to the frame, so it allows it to do this. And right in this area is where the springs go. And we'll show you that as we've installed it on a Bronco, but I want to show it to you with it out being on the Bronco so it's a little easier to see all the parts. Now the drive shaft would come from what's called the transfer case, which is what allows you to have four-wheel drive front and rear, and it attaches right here. Now watch, when this turns like this, it also turns these wheels. As the drive shaft turns, it has an axle that comes out through here and ultimately splines in here and here, and then that turns your front wheels. And you can see, if you can get a real good tight shot on this, you can see the axle right here trying to turn. That connects to the gears on the inside of what we would call the third member, or a lot of people call this a chunk, but this is where the gears are, and these gears transfer this movement into this movement to make your wheels turn. Your steering would then attach right here and over there at the same spot, and as you turn the steering wheel, it turns these wheels. Now this is all new and it's just been tightened up, so it's a little difficult for me to turn it without the fear that I'm going to knock it off the stands. But that gives you an idea of what goes on. Now one trick on this that you need to know, if you have a Bronco and you're getting ready to do all of this, you want to be sure that you get it back together right, and you don't have what's called Bronco lean. So if you don't get these radius arms on their level with the axle, this Bronco will set like this or like this. And the way you do that is you set this whole thing up level, and put a level here and a level there, and then make your adjustments on this to crank these one way or the other so these are all the same height and level, and then it won't have Bronco lean. Okay, now over here is where your brakes go, right here. The caliper would fit in these brackets, and it squeezes the brake rotor as you're moving. It squeezes it and stops the Bronco from moving when you apply the brakes. This is the axle housing, and here's the plug that you open up, you take it out, and fill this up with grease. Now, a lot of people say, what is a positraction? Well, a positraction means that when this turns, both wheels turn at the same time. If it's not a positraction, then one wheel will only be turning and the other one won't. So positraction gives you grip on both wheels when you step on the gas. When it's not positraction, if it's slick or wet or something, you might get one wheel spin and the other one not. Now let's move over to this Bronco and kind of look at it as it's installed on the Bronco. Same thing here. Now we don't have the brakes on here, but we do have the axle installed. And you can see that the strut rods that I was showing you are installed, and you can see them up here where they attach to the frame, and there's two great big bushings right here. You see that red thing? That's what attaches this axle so it can go up and down to the frame of the vehicle. And this is the spring that allows it to bounce and gives it tension to hold it up. And then here's a shock absorber that avoids a quick rapid bounce. It softens the ride, as they say, because it doesn't compress quickly enough. And sometimes these are dual action, sometimes they're bigger shocks than this, but they work to sustain the axle so that it doesn't get loose and feel like it's bouncing all the time. And you hit a lot of bumps in the road, and that's what kind of evens all that out. This is the steering that we were talking about. We're over there, I couldn't turn it, but these are the steering components right here. These would normally be called tie rod ends, but on this particular vehicle, they're heim joints, meaning they're a little bit different than a tie rod end, but they are stronger, and you can see they're much bigger bolts. And the reason we use that on these Broncos is because we put big tires on them, and the tires hit bumps, and they're heavy, so they tend to make this steering feel unstable. So we put big, heavy steering on there with heim joints so we can get a lot of strength in the steering system. So it comes across to both axles, and this is the gearbox right here that attaches up to the steering wheel. So when you turn it, this moves in one direction or the other, and then moves the wheels in the same direction. And that's what your steering is. This will be called, this is a connecting link, and this is what a lot of people call drag links. This shock right here, this is like a shock absorber, but it helps stabilize the impact of the front wheels hitting bumps. It's real bad about, on these older vehicles, it's real bad about getting a lot of vibration in your steering wheel. So this helps remove some of that, and it attaches here and then over here. And this is the track bar, and that actually helps the axle do this, but it also stabilizes it too. And this is a very heavy duty bar that has adjustments on it for the front end shock to set all this up. So that's right here. So these are the tie rod end links, and you could call this a drag link because it drags back over to the gearbox. This is called the pitman arm right here, and it's got a drop in it just for a vehicle that has been lifted. So this has a 3-inch lift. What that means is we've raised the vehicle up off the axle by about 3 inches. To compensate for that, you can see this offset right here allows us to keep the standard steering in the same direction that it was before, because this drops down, and so does this bracket right here. This drops the track bar down from here to here so that it is in the original position too. Here's the coil spring on this side. Here's those C-clamp bushings I was talking about that you need to adjust in order to get the axle to sit, or the whole truck to sit straight. We'll get Bronco lean. And once again, here is the drain plug right here for the third member where all the gears are, and you fill this up till the fluid starts just to run out that hole, and then you put this in there. Be sure you seal it up with some sealant. Now this particular Bronco, the ball joints are different. This is an old style, and these are actually bearings with caps, and you have to set these up with shims so that you get the amount of drag on here as prescribed in the book, and you use a inch-pound wrench to try to move this as you tighten this up by shimming it one direction or the other. So once again, just trying to help you out, learn a little bit about your car, your truck, your Bronco, and hopefully make you more comfortable. If you're under there looking at something and trying to figure out if it's worn out, you at least kind of know how it all works. I'm Barry Wilson, Wilson Auto Repair. My website's wilsonauto.com, and please subscribe to my YouTube.